Okay, let's unpack this. We've got a stack of sources here. Articles, research, your notes, all centered around the Bhagavad Gita. And wow, what a text.
It really is. Ancient, complex.
Yeah, and yet these sources you shared, they suggest it holds surprisingly sharp insights for us today.
It really is a deep well. And these sources, they bring us excerpts from the Gita itself, plus some fascinating commentary, gives us a specific lens.
Seems like it's particularly through the perspective associated with Ramanuja.
That's right. That's the main commentary thread here.
Got it. So our mission today, it isn't just to summarize this thing.
No, not at all.
It's really to navigate these texts together and pull out the most potent nuggets of knowledge, the insights specifically for you, the listener.
Exactly. Think of it as a journey.
Right. A journey that starts, on a battlefield, but it dives deep, really fundamental questions about who we are, how we should act.
Our connection to something bigger.
And you hinted at this. One source makes this really unexpected link to, like, modern social media.
Oh, yeah. We definitely have to get into that. It's quite striking.
But first things first, finding those timeless principles.
So where do the sources say we need to begin? What's the foundation?
It seems to be the nature of the self. That's hammered home again and again.
That's right. There's this core distinction laid out. You've got the eternal, indestructible self, the jiva, or Atman.
Okay.
And then there's the temporary body, the physical part, which belongs to Prakriti, material, nature.
And there's that verse, 2.12 in the commentary. It states it so clearly.
Yeah. Never was a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor will there be any time in future when all of us shall cease to be. It's about permanence.
The real you doesn't just disappear.
Exactly. And the commentary on 2.20 really drives it home. The jiva is never born, it never dies.
It's not slain when the body is slain.
Precisely. And according to these sources, that insight, that who you fundamentally are is separate from your physical form, that's the bedrock. That's where understanding begins.
But it's not easy to grasp, is it? The sources mention that too.
Right. Verse 2.29. People hear about this eternal self. They might even talk about it as a wonder.
But still not really know it. It's profound, but kind of elusive.
Yeah, it takes more than just hearing it once.
So, okay, if this self, this core of us, is eternal and isn't really affected by the body dying, does that mean we should just, check out, stop doing things?
Good question. But no, not at all. The sources are very clear.
You can't just achieve freedom by giving up action. Verse 4.4 says that directly.
Right. Simply stopping doesn't work.
Okay, so we have to act. We can't just stop. How should we act then?
And that brings us to karma yoga. This is a huge concept in these texts.
Action, but different.
Yes, action, but done without being attached to the results. The Ramanuja commentary on 4.4 explains it as a key path.
A path for spiritual progress.
Exactly. Action itself, done right, can lead towards realizing that self we were just talking about. It's action with wisdom involved.
Okay, so the doing isn't the issue. It's the clinging.
Yeah.
The wanting specific outcomes for me.
That's the core of it. It's the attitude behind the action. And duty dharma is really central here.
Doing what you're supposed to do.
Yes. Krishna himself, in 3.24, points out that even he acts, otherwise the worlds would fall apart. So the instruction to Arjuna is clear: do your duty.
But not selfishly. It's for the welfare of the world, it says in 3.25.
Right. Selfless action.
The sources also talk about sacrifice, Yajna, but it's broader than just rituals, right?
Much broader. Verse 4.28 lists things like austerity tapas, different kinds of yoga practice, studying scripture, pursuing knowledge.
So it's about dedicating your energy, offering up your efforts.
That seems to be the idea. Offering your activities in a spirit of dedication, not just for personal gain. And verse 4.31 says those who live on the remnants of such sacrifice, they attain the eternal.
It loops back to that earlier idea from 4.20. If you give up attachment to the fruits, even when you're busy acting, you're not really bound by it.
It's like an internal freedom, even while you're engaged externally.
That internal freedom, that wisdom, it seems connected to understanding the divine.
Definitely. The sources identify Krishna as the supreme being, the Paramatma, distinct, it says in 15.17, from both individual souls bound or liberated and the material world.
And he's the source of everything. Sustainer, dissolver.
Yes, the commentary on 9.7 and 10.13 spells that out. And there's that beautiful image in 7.7.
Oh, the gems on a thread.
That's the one. All this is strung on him as clusters of gems on a thread. Shows how everything is connected through the divine.
But he's not just out there. The commentary on 15.13 says He's the over-self within us, too.
Right, residing in the hearts of all beings. And 10.39 states flatly, nothing, moving or unmoving, can exist without him. He's both beyond everything and inside everything.
Transcendent and immanent.
Exactly. But there's a catch, a warning in the sources.
That people might miss it. They see Krishna in human form, but don't get his true nature. Verses 7.24 and 9.11.
Precisely. They see the appearance, the outer form, but miss the divine reality behind or within it. Ignorance is the barrier.
So to help understand his pervasiveness, chapter 10 talks about viputis, divine manifestations.
Yes, examples of how his power and glory are expressed in the peak forms within creation.
Like being the best priest, Praspati, or the best general, Skanda.
Or the sacred syllable Om among words, the Himalayas among mountains, the Vajra among weapons.
It's showing the divine is present in the highest expressions of existence.
It's a way to grasp his omnipresence. And understanding this divine nature, it naturally leads us towards what seems to be the most emphasized path in these particular sources.
Which is?
The power of devotion, bhakti yoga.
Right. Single-minded devotion.
The core idea from 11.54 is that through this path, specifically, you can truly know, see, and even enter into that divine reality.
And the commentary suggests this is more effective than just studying or doing rituals if that devotion isn't there.
Yes, devotion seems to be the key ingredient, according to this perspective. It's not just intellectual understanding.
It's a relationship, a feeling. The sources describe the ideal devotee pretty clearly.
They do. Qualities like being free from attachment, free from malice towards any being, serving the divine, seeing that as the highest goal. That's from 11.55.
And then 12.14 and more. Free from hatred, compassionate, letting go of that strong sense of I and mine.
Even-minded in pleasure and pain, contented, self-controlled, firm conviction, mind and intellect focused entirely on the divine. It's a whole transformation of character.
It's quite a list. And the instruction in 9.34 is very direct, isn't it?
Extremely. Focus your mind on me, be devoted, offer worship, bow down. Regarding me as the supreme goal, you will come to me. It's a call to orient your whole life.
And doing this unswerving devotion, verse 14.26 says it helps you transcend the gunas.
Yes, those fundamental qualities of material nature we need to talk about.
Right, the gunas. That's another absolutely key concept here. They're like the basic energies that bind us.
That's a good way to put it. The three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, they arise from prakriti, material nature, and they influence the embodied self. Chapter 14 is all about them.
So sattva is?
Clarity, illumination, harmony, happiness. It's the quality of goodness and light.
Okay. And rajas?
Passion, activity, ambition, restlessness. Attachment to action and results, drive.
And tamas?
Ignorance, inertia, delusion, negligence, laziness, sleep, heaviness, darkness.
Wow. So the sources are saying our internal state feeling clear or driven or just stuck can be understood through these three fundamental energies.
Yes, their interplay shapes our experience within the material world.
And building on that idea of qualities, chapter 16 draws this really stark contrast between divine and demoniac natures.
It does. The divine nature includes qualities like fearlessness, purity, generosity, self-control, truthfulness, nonviolence, compassion, basically virtues.
Things we generally see as positive.
Right, whereas the demoniac nature is marked by pride, arrogance, harshness, ignorance.
And the text describes their thinking. Like, I am rich, I am noble, I'm going to enjoy myself. That's verse 16.15.
Yes, caught up in their own ego, fantasies, addicted to sense gratification, and heading towards ruin, as 16.16 puts it.
Okay, this is where that modern connection comes in, from one of the sources you shared.
The social media influencer comparison, yes.
It frames some influencers who seem to go off the rails as modern aruras, the term for these demoniac beings.
Exactly. The source maps their path onto the description in chapter 16. Start with effort, show off greatness, gain followers, which is power, project it all through ego.
Claim expertise they don't have, then face backlash.
It uses that modern scenario as an illustration of these anciently described negative qualities. It's quite a provocative parallel from the source material.
It really makes you think about some online dynamics differently.
Mm-hmm.
And the text gives a specific warning, doesn't it? The gateway to Naraka, to ruin.
Yes, verse 16.21, it's threefold. Selfish desire, anger, and greed.
And it says, abandon these three, crucial for saving the self.
Absolutely.
Now, these sources also seem to engage with other philosophical ideas. There's a bit in the appendix.
Yes, the commentary specifically critiques certain Advaita views, like the idea that the world is ultimately unreal, or that divine incarnations, avatars, aren't fully real.
So the perspective these sources are presenting is,
It's one where the divine Lord, the individual souls, and the material world are all presented as distinct realities. They're all dependent on the Lord, yes, but they are real and distinct entities.
okay, so not just an illusion, real distinctions, all interconnected through the divine.
That's the view here.
Yeah.
And connecting back to the gunas, sattvic knowledge, the clearest kind, is described in 18.20 as seeing that one unchanging self in all beings, seeing the unity behind the diverse forms.
Not just separate bodies.
Right. And commentary on chapter 13 suggests that truly knowing the difference between that eternal self and temporary material nature is what leads to liberation.
It all ties together. And this whole teaching, all this profound wisdom, it's delivered in this really dramatic context.
Arjuna's crisis on the battlefield.
Yeah, dropped right in. He sees his family, his teachers on the other side, and he's just overcome with grief. Doesn't want to fight them. Verses 1.34, 1.35.
He's paralyzed by emotion and attachment.
And Krishna's first move isn't just there. He challenges him, right? Says fighting is his duty, his dharma as a warrior.
And that for someone honorable, dishonor is worse than death. That's 2.34 and the commentary on 2.37. It really sets the stage.
Yeah.
How do you act rightly when it's incredibly hard?
And then later, Arjuna asks to see Krishna's true universal form, chapter 11.
And he gets more than he bargained for. It's described as this overwhelming, terrifying vision.
Countless arms, mouths, eyes, blazing like fire.
Powering. Verses 11.17, 11.1, 17.135 capture some of that intensity.
And Arjuna's reaction is pure fear, trembling, asking for mercy.
Understandably, it's a vision of the raw power behind the cosmos. Even Sanjaya, who's narrating this remotely, says recalling the vision and the dialogue fills him with amazement and joy again and again. That's near the end, 18.76, 18.77.
It underscores the impact of that revelation.
And the whole narrative arc really culminates in that final verse, 18.78.
The one that says, where Yogeshvara Krishna is, where Arjuna the archer is.
There is prosperity, victory, opulence, and firm policy. It ties the divine guidance, Krishna, Lord of Yoga, and the dedicated, equipped individual, Arjuna, the bow wielder, directly to successful and righteous outcomes.
Wow. Okay. So let's try and bring this together for you, the listener. We've journeyed through these sources, looking at, well, a lot.
The core difference between the eternal self and the temporary body.
Right. The path of karma yoga, acting without attachment.
Understanding the divine both beyond and within everything.
A power of bhakti yoga, devotion, how the gunas influence us.
That stark difference between divine and demoniac qualities, and that interesting modern parallel one source drew.
And the whole thing framed by Arjuna's struggle and that incredible cosmic vision.
These ancient teachings, they're not just history lessons. They really offer frameworks, ways of understanding ourselves, our drives, our actions, our interactions.
Even today, absolutely. They give us a vocabulary for what's going on inside us and around us.
So maybe some things for you to think about, reflecting on the sources we explored today.
Like what aspects of those natures, divine, demoniac, the gunas, do you notice in yourself? Or maybe in the world around you?
Yeah, and how might really taking in that distinction between the eternal self and the temporary body, how might that shift your perspective on challenges, on loss, on change in your own life?
Good questions. What core idea, what nugget from this deep dive into these texts really stands out most to you?
Definitely things worth sitting with.
So we've taken this deep dive into the sources you provided, explored this profound body of ancient wisdom.
Offering a specific perspective on reality, on purpose, on our connection to it all.
From understanding who you fundamentally are, that imperishable self, to the call for action based on wisdom and duty.
The path of devotion, the subtle effects of material nature, and the presence of the Supreme holding it all together.
It's incredibly rich.
Yeah.
And challenging.
It really is. And as you continue to mull over all this, maybe here's one less thought the sources leave us with.
Okay.
The ultimate reality, Krishna, is described not just as the source of that immortal self, but also, according to verse 14.27, as the abode of perfect bliss.
Bliss.
So the final thought is, how does that challenge the challenge of seeing or connecting with that eternal blissful reality amidst all the constant change, the demands, the forms of everyday material life? How does that resonate with your own experience?